I didn't notice that. I should wake up.
I'd like to call to order the December 16th Tredyffrin Board of Supervisors meeting. Let's have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And first, we have a swearing in of 3 new police officers. Chief Beatty.
Thank you for the board's time and the public's time. It's an exciting day for Tredyffrin Township Police Department with some recent retirements and pending retirements. We'll be swearing in 3 new officers this evening. One of the spots that's become available, Detective Dan McFadden is in the room. Dan is in the back. Dan has a few more days to go. He'll be retiring after 33 years of service, 13 as a detective and 20 plus that, 20 before that in the patrol capacity. So Dan's been a nice job helping us out a lot of the big cases. In fact, he thought he had a case was last week, just got through. It was a lot of work. But we're going to miss his service. Thank him for what he does, leadership in the unit and the Bureau. And congratulations, Detective McFadden, job well done. And there'll be some fun festivities for Dan, I'm sure, in the future in 2025. So thank you. Last week we also had Officer Finizzi. His last tour, we had a special event for him. He's not here tonight, but we had a special recognition for him and his family. So these new officers are going to fill some large shoes after some officers retiring. If I call up Rich Sposato and his family, his parents, Rich or Colleen, his siblings are Michael, Sarah, and his grandparents are Stella, Sposato, Marianne, and Tom Stair. Whoever you'd like to come on up to the front with us. We have retired Judge John Bailey. Once again, John was a detective sergeant here at Tredyffrin Township, served for 30 years. And went on to being a judge in the Exton area, and he always comes out and helps us out, and we appreciate you, Judge. Thanks again for all you do for us. So the Judge will go up and do the swearing in, and real quick, Rich comes to us. He started field training program on December 9th. He's a resident of Wayne. He attended Cabrini University and earned his certification from the Delaware County Municipal Police Academy in 2020. Prior to coming to Tredyffrin Township as a police officer, he served for the Morton Police Department in Morton. So congratulations, and please swear in Officer Rich Sposato.
Left hand on the Bible, raise your right. Just repeat after me. I, Richard Sposato, being duly appointed police officer for the Tredyffrin Township Police Department in Chester County, do solemnly swear and affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution and laws of this Commonwealth. That I will, during my term of employment with the Tredyffrin Township Police Department, perform my duties with fidelity. In my position as police officer, I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law without consideration to a person's race, color, sex, religious creed, sexual orientation, age, national origin, ancestry, handicap, or disability. Congratulations.
Thank you. If we could have Officer Nate Gathercole. Nate would come up with his family. With Nate, we have his father, Brian, mother, Alyssa, March, stepmother, Kim Gathercole, Robert March, stepfather, his sister, Brianna, Kelsey, and Vanessa. If they'd like to come up, whoever we'd like to have come up with him to hold the Bible and be presented, take the swearing in. Nate comes to us. He was a resident of Coatesville, Pennsylvania, graduated from Coatesville High School and the Valley Forge Military College. He achieved his certification from the Delaware County Municipal Police Academy, and he served in the United States Army National Guard. Prior to coming to the Tredyffrin Township Police Department, he served he worked at Chester County Prison and also Coatesville PD. We'd like to welcome Nate and his family to our Tredyffrin family. Judge Bailey, if you could do the swearing in, thank you.
The other way. Nice and slow. All right. I, Nathan Gathercole,
I, Nathan Gathercole,
being duly appointed police officer
being duly appointed police officer
for the Tredyffrin Township Police Department
for the Tredyffrin Township Police Department
in Chester County, Pennsylvania,
in Chester County, Pennsylvania,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution and laws of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution and laws of this Commonwealth,
that I will,
that I will,
during my term of employment
during my term of employment
with the Tredyffrin Township Police Department,
with the Tredyffrin Township Police Department,
perform my duties with fidelity.
perform my duties with fidelity.
In my position as police officer,
In my position as police officer,
I will uphold, obey, and enforce
I will uphold, obey, and enforce
the law without consideration
the law without consideration
to a person's race, color, sex,
to a person's race, color, sex,
religious creed,
religious creed,
sexual orientation,
sexual orientation,
age,
age,
national origin,
national origin,
ancestry,
ancestry,
handicap,
handicap,
or disability.
or disability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Congratulations and welcome.
Congratulations.
For accepting that great honor, Nate is actually night shift tonight. I'd also, at this time, I'd like to call up Tony Marak. Tony and his family, if you start making your way up here. Tony's joined us today by his father, Tony Sr., Rebecca, his mother, his brother Luke, his grandmother Patricia Lehman, and Rachel Northcutt, his girlfriend. Tony will be starting with us January 6th as part of the new addition of officers going into 2025 that were approved by the board and at the previous meetings. The other two officers will be starting the police academy as cadets. That will bring the complement of 42 in 2025 up to 45. Tony will be, like I said, starting January 6th. He is a resident of Newtown, Pennsylvania, graduated magna cum laude from Bucks County Community College in May of 2022 with an associate's degree in criminal justice. He just graduated last week from the Montgomery County Municipal Police Academy, where he had honors there. Tony was previously served as a first responder in the Pennswood Village area of Newtown, responding to public safety needs for the residents of that facility. I'd like to welcome Tony with the swearing in by Judge Bailey. Thank you.
I, Tony Marak, being duly appointed police officer appointed police officer
For the Tredyffrin Township Police Department
for the Tredyffrin Township Police
in
Department
Chester County, Pennsylvania,
in Chester County, Pennsylvania,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the constitutional laws of this Commonwealth,
and the constitutional laws of this Commonwealth,
that I will,
that I will,
during my term of employment
during my term of employment
with the Tredyffrin Township Police Department,
with the Tredyffrin Township Police Department,
perform my duties with fidelity.
perform my duties with fidelity.
In my position as police officer,
In my position as police officer,
I will uphold, obey, and enforce
I will uphold, obey, and enforce
the law without consideration
the law without consideration
to a person's race,
to a person's race,
color, sex,
color, and sex,
religious creed,
religious creed,
sexual orientation,
sexual orientation,
age,
age,
national origin,
national origin,
ancestry,
ancestry,
handicap,
handicap,
or disability.
and disability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
I really appreciate the board's time, and I would like to thank the officers from the region. There's a couple chiefs in the room, there's sergeants, there's other officers from municipalities that know some of our newly sworn officers, and I especially like to thank my officers for showing up, my supervisors that came out to support this family. We're very blessed to have a good corps to help train these young men and women, and in fact, our other newest officer in the back, Kara, she's here with the other officers. So it's a big family here. We appreciate the board and the public support and what we do every day. We can't thank you enough. It's really an honor and privilege for me to be able to lead this department under your direction. So thank you, and thanks for board's time, and thank you for the public's time. You guys are released. Thank you.
Yeah, Chief, congratulations. Hey, Chief Beatty, congratulations. Those are pretty impressive young men that you, and the young woman we brought in before, really pretty impressive. So good job.
Thank you very much, sir. We're very blessed, very lucky. It's a big process when we start bringing the officers on. It's a lot of it's a team effort because you do the testing. We incorporate our sergeants, our officers into the interviews. And then we also do our detectives with the background. And the actual township staff works with us too, working with the HR director to go through all the necessary processes to bring them in. It's a long, methodical process, but it works out, and we really seem to we have great candidates. We're very fortunate that these candidates wanted to choose Tredyffrin, because right now they're having opportunities to go multiple places. And because of the reputation of this community, this township, they wanted to serve here. And we actually brought other officers from other places in the last 3 hires from other departments that worked nearby and wanted to come here. So we're very blessed to have that opportunity. It's not good to take from somewhere else, but we're able to get some of the best.
Well, thank you for your leadership too. I mean, obviously it comes down to leadership, and thank you. It's tough to follow that, but let's start with our meeting now. I'd like to call to order a public hearing for HR 486. There's a public hearing to consider and possibly adopt the ordinance HR 486 to approve the Tredyffrin Township final budget for fiscal year 2025. Mr. McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have marked the following board exhibits for the hearing this evening. Board Exhibit 1 is the proof of publication of the notice of the hearing that ran in the Daily Local News on December 3rd, 2024. Board Exhibit 2 is the proof of publication of the notice for the hearing that ran in the Mainline Times Suburban on December 8th, 2024. Board Exhibit 3 is a copy of the email and distribution list to those who wish to receive public hearing notifications that was sent on December 10th, 2024. Board Exhibit 4 is a copy of the proposed ordinance itself, and Board Exhibit 5 is a copy of the proposed 2025 final budget. Those are the board exhibits for this hearing.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Do we hear any board comment or?
Thank you, Chair Miller. So I will be, to clarify, will be voting for the budget, but I do think that in next year we should at least try something different, which is right now a large part of our revenue comes from real estate tax. And I think I would like to see us at least consider when drafting the budget what it might look like if we had an EIT. And part of that, again, let's say consider keep the revenue flat so you have an EIT and then roll back the real estate tax by 50% or something like that. So we keep the revenue side and the expenditure side, consider them separately. But I think part of the reason to at least think about an EIT is I think that it gives us potentially a little bit more stable source of revenue, because if you have two different sources of revenue, then if one goes up, right now, if real estate goes up and down, our revenue tends to be tied to that. I think there are some other benefits to an EIT as well, because right now people who live elsewhere with an EIT and work in Tredyffrin get the benefit of Tredyffrin, and conversely, people who, the converse also applies. So I think that it's something that I would like to request the finance director to consider for 2025, but for right now, I'm going to vote for the budget as it is for to consider in 2025 for the 2026 budget, and right now I'm going to vote for the 2025 budget as it stands.
Any other board comment?
I concur with Supervisor Bhaskar. I think we need to continue looking for additional sources of revenue. We're going to be seeing a number of requests for reassessment on our commercial properties. Demands for EMS and fire and police continue to grow. But I am very supportive of this current budget. We'll be voting yes.
Thank you. The only comment I'll make about the budget would be I think our township staff has done an extraordinary job of keeping the tax increase for this year to be very reasonable. I think what's the total dollar increase on the average household? $56, some number like that. I think it's a really tribute. 58, yeah. So it's close. 58. So I think it's a real tribute to our township and how tightly they squeezed the numbers to keep that level of increase given the amount of inflation and the amount of services that we get for what we provide. I'm open to having a conversation about an EIT. I think we'll have that debate next year, so it's not worth it having the debate right now. There's good reasons some have been opposed for a long time. But let's have that conversation next year when we can have it. Any other board comment? Any citizen comment?
Remember the microphone. Ray Clark from Overlook Place in Malvern. To support Supervisor Bhaskar and his recommendation that we look at an EIT, I think that may well be something that the time has come. We're seeing more development of apartment buildings, which will be less people with a direct investment in the services of paying for the services of the township, and an EIT is a way to make that resident connection, I think. And of course we do know that a lot of people currently pay an EIT that goes to other townships, and keeping that in Tredyffrin would be a good thing. So I definitely would support the board looking at that very hard next year. And also to reinforce what Chairman Miller said about appreciation for the township staff, Joe, and all the staff that come in for the budget workshop and withstand a few kind of niggling questions every year. That's generally, I think, reflective of the transparency of the township about its finances, and it's much appreciated, as is, I think, the prudent way in which the township has for decades managed its finances, and it's much appreciated by this resident and I think many others. So thank you.
Any other resident comment?
Good evening, Hans Van Mol from Paoli. I just wanted to thank these, Hans Van Mol from Paoli. VAN space MOL. If you want me to be nitpicky, it's a lowercase v, capital M. You can thank the Dutch for that. I just wanted to comment that I greatly appreciate the work that the township has done to not only make sure that we are providing the services that the residents have asked for, but also making sure that it's being done in a prudent manner. I know that it's obviously not easy, and certainly not easy for some reason to get done on time. So I just wanted to extend my own thanks from this resident for the work that's done, and just say, you do better than the state on that part, getting it done on time. So, I appreciate that the deliberation's going on with the supervisors about sources of revenue, and I'm sure that's something continue to come, but I just wanted to extend my appreciation and say thank you for continuing to provide the services that this township obviously needs, but obviously that also makes it a desirable place to live.
Thank you. Any other resident comment? Any other supervisor comment? All right, this is a roll call vote. Supervisor Humble?
Aye.
Supervisor Holt?
Aye.
Supervisor Gussie?
Aye.
Supervisor Wysocki?
Aye.
Supervisor Bhaskar?
Aye.
Supervisor Johnston Pugh?
Yes.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. I'm going to adjourn public hearing for HR 486 and call to order public hearing for HR 487. This is a public hearing to consider and possibly adopt HR 487, fixing the rate of taxation for real estate in Tredyffrin Township at 2.769 mils for the general fund, 0.657 for the stormwater fund, and 0.736 for the fire EMS fund for fiscal year 2025. Mr. McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have marked the following board exhibits for the hearing. Board Exhibit 1 is the proof of publication of the notice of the hearing that ran in the Daily Local News on December 3rd, 2024. Board Exhibit 2 is the proof of publication of the notice of the hearing that ran in the Mainline Times Suburban on December 8th, 2024. Board Exhibit 3 is a proof of publication from the Inquirer dated November 28th, 2024 regarding the notice of the hearing. Board Exhibit 4 is a copy of an email and distribution list to those who wish to receive public hearing notifications that was sent on December 10th, 2024. And Board Exhibit 5 is a copy of the ordinance itself. Those are the board exhibits for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comment?
Just a small one, which is that in the comments that I've heard from residents, they appreciated the fact that a year ago we kind of split out the EMS fund and the stormwater fund, and as I've talked to them, it kind of helped them to realize a little bit more where the revenues are going. So I think we did the right thing last year by doing that, and I'm supportive of continuing to do that in future years.
Thank you, Supervisor Bhaskar. Yeah, the plan is, those are separate funds, so we have to separate them out. Yeah, it's set up that way forever. Just to clarify for anyone who's questioning why we have another motion, we just approved the budget. This is actually how we pay for the budget. So this is the tax revenue that pays for the budget we just approved. Any resident comment or questions? Another roll call vote. Supervisor Humble.
Aye.
Supervisor Holt.
Aye.
Supervisor Gussie.
Aye.
Supervisor Wysocki.
Aye.
Supervisor Bhaskar.
Aye.
Supervisor Johnston Pugh.
Yes.
And I vote aye, motion carries. Let's adjourn public hearing for HR 487 and call to order the public meeting. We start with announcements. The Traffic Committee scheduled for 7:30 a.m. on Wednesday, December 18th has been moved to start at 9 a.m. the same day. Contention Lane Bridge will be closed for repairs in mid-January and during the month of February, weather permitting. In observance of the holidays, the following schedule will be in place. Tuesday, December 24th, the offices, this is for the township offices, will be closed. Wednesday, December 25th, the township offices are closed. Tuesday, December 31st, offices closed at noon. And Wednesday, January 1st, offices closed. And just to clarify, on the 24th, the office is closed at noon. They're not closed all day. Maybe I've misspoken. The 2025 organizational meeting for the Board of Supervisors is scheduled for Monday, January 6th at 7 p.m. There are opportunities for 5 members of the community to serve on the Arts Commission. If you're interested in volunteering and wish to be considered, please send your resume and a letter of interest to Tredyffrin@tredyffrin.org. Now, approval of the minutes. I need a motion to approve the minutes of December 2nd, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any board comment or questions to the minutes? Any public comment or questions to the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Now we go to township business. The board met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss legal matters. Supervisor liaison reports. Supervisor Humble. That's okay. Supervisor Holt.
Yes, I have a motion to reappoint Sam Becker and Sanford Nishikawa to the Municipal Authority.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Holt. Any other comment, any other report?
Not tonight, thank you.
Thanks. Supervisor Gussie?
No reports.
Supervisor Moisaki?
Yeah, I have a report on the Planning Commission. Planning Commission met on November 21st and addressed 2 matters. First, the PC Planning Commission commented upon a sketch plan for a proposed 3-lot subdivision of 549 Park Ridge Terrace. Second, the Planning Commission granted preliminary final approval for the Devon Dunkin' Donuts to add a drive-through lane and a pickup window on the west side of the existing Dunkin' Donuts store. The December PC meeting set for this Thursday has been canceled. The next Planning Commission meeting is on January 16th.
Thank you, Supervisor Moisaki. Supervisor Bhaskar?
So I'd like to start by nominating or renominating Susan Hay and Ann Murphy for reappointment to the Environmental Advisory Council.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Actually, I didn't ask for comment, but
True, though, well, these are activist and long-serving members of the EAC, and I think they're the right candidates for reappointment. Don't have anything more to add.
and I would agree with that, and the motion already carried, but anyway, thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, so moving on. The Environmental Advisory Council met on Tuesday, December 3rd, and here are some of the highlights. So the members nominated Gus Fudale and Kim Tempas for associate membership and to be voted on in January. So the procedure is for the associate members to be nominated in one meeting and then to be voted on in the next. And associate members are residents who participate in the activities of the EAC and then who form a pool of volunteers when there's a vacancy in the EAC. So it makes it easier to fill positions when they become vacant. And in fact, moving on, that's a good segue. EAC member Eduardo Dueñas is stepping down at the end of the year, and EAC Chair Dr. Jonathan Wilson is talking to the associate members regarding their interest in serving on the EAC. And we'd like to thank Mr. Dueñas for his years of service on the EAC. Moving on to some of the activities, EAC members and volunteers planted native trees in Krabby Creek Park and leftover rain garden plants in Wilson Farm Park. Associate member Tracy Viola reported on a Penn Environment meeting that she attended, where she met Jeff, who's the head of Narberth Public Works. They have evidently gone all electric for their mowers and blowers. The machines have enough charge for normal use and said that residents love how quiet they are. They calculate that the payback period is 2 to 3 years, and Jeff is happy to talk to other townships. Ms. Viola also reported that Lower Merion is planning an all-day training for commercial landscapers and noted that the Inflation Reduction Act has a 30% tax credit for electric lawn mowers up to $75,000. Now, obviously, that doesn't apply to us. The EAC also discussed projects for the Martin Luther King Day of Service, and individual members discussed their personal goals for 2025. The next meeting of the EAC is on Tuesday, January 28th at 7 p.m. Moving on to the Library Board of Trustees that met on Thursday, December 5th. Township Director Joe DeRocco, Finance Director Joe DeRocco attended the meeting and briefed the board on a state program for the library to maintain its funds and get a better return than they are currently getting. Kristen Dormuth, was voted secretary, replacing Jennifer Whipp, who stepped down earlier. The board passed the 2025 budget. Now, the Tredyffrin Public Libraries, which is Stratford and Paoli together, is one of 22 distinguished libraries awarded youth-led humanities grants from the Pennsylvania Humanities Council. In addition to funding, it also provides access to resources such as coaching and workshops that will allow us to extend teen programming for youth-led art and theater programs. Kate Corrigan of the Friends of Tredyffrin Public Library has been chosen as the 2024 Library Hero and will be recognized at the Board of Supervisors meeting on January 21st. And as a reminder, both the Tredyffrin Public Library Board and the Library Foundation each have 2 open positions, and we would very much encourage interested residents to step up and volunteer. The libraries, like many of the other boards, run on volunteer power. The next meeting of the Library Board is on Thursday, January 23rd at the Stratford Library. Thank you, Chair Miller.
Thank you, Supervisor Bhaskar. Supervisor Johnston Pugh.
No reports at this time.
Thank you very much. The next business is a motion to approve the settlement agreement for 28 Briar Road in Wayne. Mr. McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 28 Briar is owned by Alexander Herman and Catherine Herman. The Hermans had sought rear yard setbacks some time ago for the property to permit the construction of a detached garage. After the hearing, they were granted the variance requests, and they sought and received permits from the township related to the construction of the garage. They also sought a stormwater exemption in addition as part of that construction. And during that process where permits were issued, the township determined that the plans that were originally submitted by the Hermans for the garage failed to note the existence of a nearby floodplain area. The importance of that is the effect that that floodplain had on the location of the garage relative to this property. The Hermans maintained that and they were told that they would need additional setback relief by the township. The Hermans maintained that the additional setback from the floodplain was not required because of a vested right to construct the garage due to zoning determinations and the issuance of the permits. So rather than fight that out, the parties decided to enter into the agreement that is in front of you, which the material terms of which include moving the garage in conformance with the plan, which we'd had reviewed, we commented on. They actually addressed our comments and moved the garage. While it's not 100% out of the floodplain, it is substantially now moved, thereby hopefully mitigating any concerns or issues. They had also agreed as conditions that they shall not make any further incursions or disturbances into a floodplain setback, and if the garage was ever demolished or replaced, that any new garage or structure would comply with that setback requirement for the floodplain, assuming those still exist at the time. The Hermans also agreed to indemnify and release the township, and we've also required that a copy of the settlement agreement be recorded by the Hermans so that any future owners of the property will understand the rights and responsibilities that are a part of this agreement.
Do I hear a motion? So moved. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Mr. McKenna, how do we know they're going to actually file this or record this?
I'm going to require them to give me proof that it's been recorded. We'll get a timestamped copy. And I did want to note that they've already signed the agreement.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other board comment or questions? Public comment or questions? All in favor say aye.
Wait, you have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Could you turn on
From the agreement, do they have to install stormwater management that will be required wherever the garage was located?
I don't think so. So due to the size of the garage, Aaron, I don't recall. Do you remember what we had said on that? I think part of the agreement was no, because they were removing additional impervious on the property so that it was not going to exceed the maximum that was permitted on the property. So otherwise we would have included it in the agreement.
Okay. I guess it
They
might
have
be
to remove some portions of the driveway, I think, to locate the garage, if I recall correctly now.
Okay. It seems a little disappointing that somehow they avoided, through an error in the submission of the original plans, not noting the floodplain, that they avoid having to do any stormwater management in an area which admittedly is on the very, very edge of the township, but definitely has stormwater problems up there if we go back to the stormwater task force. Kind of disappointing. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other board comment? We done? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, aye. Yep, that motion carries. Now, motion to adopt Resolution 2024-24, approving the 2025 towing service providers. Chief Beatty.
Thank you. The ordinance 475 enacted last year on December 4th requires that the towing providers provide their proof of insurance and rates for each year prior to beginning of the year. Sergeant Islip from the Traffic Safety Unit received those documents, checked them, and confirmed that the 4 towing providers from 2024 are compliant and can provide services within Tredyffrin Township, and their fees have not changed. They did not increase from the 2024 rates, so they'll be the same as in 2025 as they were in 2024. We're asking that this resolution be adopted to establish them as our providers for 2025.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any board comment or questions? Public comment or questions? Is a roll call vote? Supervisor Humble?
Aye.
Supervisor Holt?
Aye.
Supervisor Gussie?
Aye.
Supervisor Wysocki?
Aye.
Supervisor Bhaskar?
Aye.
Supervisor Johnston-Pugh?
Yes.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Motion to forward to the Planning Commission for review a petition by 435 Devon Park Partners LLC to amend the zoning ordinance to allow existing office building to be converted to a multifamily use in the L1 zoning district. Ms. McPherson.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. As you stated, we did receive a request for these zoning modifications to the zoning ordinance. This step is basically for it to go to the Planning Commission for review. Ultimately, it would have to come, as long as the Planning Commission will hash out any questions they have or concerns or changes, but ultimately it will come back to the board for review and approval. So this is the first step in that process.
Thank you, Ms. McPherson. Do I hear a motion? Oh, we had a motion. Do I hear any other questions?
Did we have a motion?
No, we did not have a motion. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
Any board comments or questions?
Is
Just a
everybody-
clarification. So in reading it, it looks like they're not planning to demolish the building or anything like that. They're actually asking to convert the existing building. And the other thing is we're basically neither approving nor disapproving. We're just voting to forward it to the Planning Commission for their review.
Right, so this isn't the actual project right now. It is being brought forth by someone who wants to do a project. But yes, the idea of the ordinance is that we have existing offices that kind of lend themselves to to residential use. So they will be converting the existing building. There's no additions or anything like that. It's literally just a fit out of the existing building.
Thank you.
Any other board comments?
Is there anybody on behalf of the owners to speak about the project in the room?
Mr. Khan is here if you have questions about the specifics of his project, sure.
Good evening, everybody. Eli Khan. I'm the partner in charge of 435 Devon Park LLC. We have met several times with the Township's Development Committee. This is really a use issue more than anything. I think most of you realize that Tredyffrin Township has a drastic shortage of workforce housing. I am a local commercial real estate developer. I have built a number of large, new, multifamily apartment complexes in and around Chester County, all of which really just cater to the absolute high end. Almost all new apartment buildings that are being built anywhere in Chester County, specifically in this area, cater to the absolute high end. No one is building any housing, whether it be for sale or for rent, for firemen, policemen, nurses, teachers, etc. We actually built 435 Devon Park Drive in the mid-'80s for the Lieberman family, which are currently still own the Meadows, which is an office complex on Devon Park Drive. 435 Devon Park Drive used to be called Buttonwood when we built it, then it became Safeguard Scientific's headquarters. It's 143,000 square feet of office space in 8 buildings. All but 3 are single-story buildings. They're juxtaposed around the property. They're relatively small buildings with parking interspersed throughout the property. We just settled on the property. We paid $10.2 million for the property. Prior owners paid $20.2 million. The value of these office buildings in your township, which you have a lot of, about 6 million square feet of, are cratering. Most of your buildings in your township, in Chesterbrook, West Lakes, Berwyn Park, up Sweetsford Road, Bay Colony, do not convert to anything other than office buildings. Most of your buildings are 3- and 4-story buildings. They have very large floor plates. Those buildings in the suburbs really have no ability to be converted to residential. This is one of the very few buildings in your township that actually converts beautifully to a residential use. The buildings are about 50% occupied right now. Johnson Matthey is leaving in March. They occupy about 30,000 square feet, and the occupancy rate will drop well below 50%. The buildings are brick. They have pitched roofs. They have operable windows. The 2-story buildings that don't have access on both levels have elevators. This is an opportunity to adaptively reuse a perfectly good structure for a use that is in tremendous demand, not just here, but everywhere in the county, with virtually no impact to the exterior look of the building. We may decide to put some balconies on or things like that. We're looking to drastically decrease the number of parking, decrease the amount of impervious surface on the property, increasing the green area, providing more amenity space. It's directly accessible to the Chester Valley Trail. Part of the property is under the power lines. As you know, Devon Park Drive has a tremendous amount of parking under the power lines. And we're looking to remove most of that parking under the power lines and turn that into a park, both potentially for the township, potentially for the residents of the property, and quite possibly for the rest of the township. This is really one of the few opportunities to do something really good with a building that is going to sit there empty. Mr. Bashar was talking about taxes and real estate taxes plummeting. I think in 2023, this property paid a little over $400,000 a year in taxes. The prior owner created a tax appeal and settled that appeal for a market value of $28 million and change, based upon your common level ratio of 3.39. At a $10 million purchase price, that property in 2026 will pay $97,000 a year in taxes. In 3 years, the taxes are going to go from over $400,000 to under $100,000. If the township works with me and allows us to convert this building into workforce housing, we'll get that tax revenue back up to where it was 3 years ago. We're currently laid out the property for, I think it's 163 units, 75% of which are one-bedroom units. If anybody's ever walked, or I encourage anybody to drive around the property, incredibly well landscaped. The property is beautiful. I mean, when we built the property in '85, we created these tree wells to preserve about 4 specimen quality trees, which are now tower above the office buildings. So virtually, we get to save all that. And again, if you drive around, and it doesn't take much imagination to see how these buildings would just so easily convert to housing.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out. I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You referred to it as workforce housing, and my question is, how is workforce housing different than other residential housing?
It's really priced below what people can buy or rent a home, in this case, rent a home in Tredyffrin Township. So because we're utilizing the structure, we're utilizing the parking, we're utilizing the landscaping, all we're doing is really renovating the insides of the building. We're able to deliver apartments at, in most cases, 30% below what your typical apartment inventory rents for in the township. I want to be clear, this is not subsidized housing. We are not seeking vouchers. We are not seeking tax credits. This is a completely private venture to address an enormous market that no one is addressing, because it's impossible, frankly, to address, short of an asset like this. I am seeing office building opportunities now. I bought the Toll Brothers headquarters in Horsham. I bought the Rite Aid headquarters in Camp Hill. I bought the Nationwide headquarters in Harleysville. I'm buying these buildings for $30 to $50 a square foot. You can't buy land here for $30 to $50 a square foot. Unfortunately, most of those buildings are being demolished because these 1980s, 70s, even in some case early 90s suburban office buildings with massive parking lots, they don't convert to anything else.
So this could just as easily be college student housing as well, right? I mean, there's not going to be any kind of limitation on who can apply to live there, correct?
I don't think college housings would be allowed there by zoning.
If you're a student and you say, I'm a student, I want to go rent an apartment here, why would you not be allowed to do it?
Erin, do you know, I feel like we have very specific rules for.
Well, I mean, I think Sharon is correct in that you can't limit who's living there. A student housing, well, that's not true. I'd have to look at that.
No, these are individual apartments, and so just because somebody's in college and they can pay, they can put their deposit, and they otherwise, why wouldn't they be able to live there? I mean, being a college, being a Villanova student or whatever doesn't make you a bad tenant.
No. And again, we're not marketing it to college students. It's not on the Villanova campus. It's actually, again, another good reason it's a good conversion is it doesn't have a negative effect on any existing neighborhoods. But again, we're going to own this for the long haul. This, again, is such an underserved marketplace. Our ability to undercut the rest of the marketplace, where we're able to provide, apartments, one-bedroom apartments for under $2,000, which really almost doesn't exist anywhere in the township. Could there be college students there? Sure. But we expect a considerable combination of retirees, Because all of our market data now basically looks at Gen Z and retirees, these two diversely different demographics needing the same kind of housing. Many retirees are running out of money. They don't want to move away from where they potentially raise their families, and this provides perfect opportunity for that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
When we go, okay. Good evening, sir. Thank you for taking the time to be here tonight and answer some of our questions. I have a few questions, some of which you've already answered. You said you own it for the long haul, so this is not going to be a flip?
No, sir.
Okay.
I should also note, I own the building next door, 455 Devon Park Drive, which I purchased from Vanguard about 6 years ago.
Okay. 160 units is the...
I think it's 162 or 163 was the preliminary layout that we did and shared with the development committee.
And then 160 units, would it be customary in the industry to consider that would be 320 people living there?
No, it would not be customary, no.
What would be the number you anticipate?
I would say probably on average, somewhere between 1.4 and 1.5 per unit.
Okay, so that gets us to 240?
Around, yes.
Okay. Square footage?
They range from, I think, 700 to about 1,100.
Okay, that's actually bigger than I thought it was going to be.
I'm sorry?
That's good. That's bigger than I thought they were going to be. So
Yeah,
all one bedroom, no studios, or?
I don't think we have any studios laid out. I think they're all one bedrooms. And there's one building there, the newest building that was built, which is a two-story building. It's really the only conventional, what looks like a conventional two-story building. It's frankly the nicest looking building on the campus. It's the one building that creates a little bit of a problem from a design perspective because the floor plates are a little bit deeper. So some of those units got a little bit bigger just in that one unit. But probably those larger size units, there might be 10 of those. That's about it. The rest of them are really geared towards very efficient layouts. And again, about 70-75% one bedroom.
Okay. I am intrigued by the term workforce housing. Is this happening anywhere else in the county that we're aware of, or is this going to an experiment here in Tredyffrin?
Well, that's a really great question. I don't know anywhere where it's happening here in the county. It's happening across the country, primarily in urban areas. Most of the reason being, most urban office buildings, go into Philadelphia, look at a 20, 30-story tower. Those footprints are like 20,000 square feet with a center elevator core. So you can easily rip out the office building, the office space, whether the building's 100 years old or 20 years old, and you can get off that elevator bank, create a little hallway around the elevator, and then have units around the perimeter. Very easy to renovate. The problem with most of the suburban product that exists, they're large footprints. They're 120 foot deep. So the only way to really, typically an apartment building, a brand new apartment building needs like 70 to 75 foot depth with a center hallway, 35 or so foot deep from the hallway to the window line to create apartments. That's why most of the buildings in your township, most suburban office buildings in the country do not convert well. So will you start to see this more? Yes. It's just difficult. I could go through every single building in Chesterbrook, West Lakes. The majority of your inventory of multi-story traditional suburban office buildings, you're more likely, as those prices drop, to see applicants come here and stand here to demolish 2 or 3 of those and come in with a plan to do large scale, whether it's for sale housing or residential housing. You just imagine taking a building in Chesterbrook and converting it. You'd have to cut a donut hole out of the middle of it to create light into it. And then who wants to park 300 feet away in some large office building parking lot? Where this project, you literally will be able to park right in front of your building because of how the parking weaves in and out of the buildings.
That's one interesting thing that you mentioned is I noticed that there's a large parking lot in front of the complex, I guess, off Devon Park Road. Is that owned by Pico, or is that your?
So all of those lots under the Pico lines are owned by Pico, and they're all leased by the property owners under long-term leases. So in this case, I really don't need any of that parking. Part of our proposal is to look at your parking ordinance as it relates to this type of use. I think we have 400 and some odd parking spaces now. We need maybe 2/3 of that. So we're proposing not only to remove most of that parking, we might leave a little bit of it. We talked about, again, this idea of a park-type setting, place maybe food trucks could come and park and accommodate some of the other employers during the day, residents, people coming off the Chester Valley Trail. And then the rest of the parking we would look to remove would be a place for like a dog walking park or just maybe a tot lot somewhere within the complex to create an amenity for the residents.
What other, because it's going to be more workforce housing, what other amenities beyond what you've already described do you anticipate being available for the residents?
We're not proposing a swimming pool at this point in time. Again, trying to keep the operating expenses of it down. There is a basement area in Building 2. If you're looking at the property with your back to Devon Park Drive, the first building in the front row of buildings is a 2-story building. That building was constructed with a full basement of about 5,000 square feet. That would be the place we could put the community room, we could put a business center, we could put a golf simulator, we could put those types of amenities down there, which almost all of your new apartment complexes, Ember, Airdrie, all have really incredible amenity spaces. So we would create some amenities in a building. Really, to me, most of the amenities are the location, easy access to the Gateway Shopping Center, easy access to the King of Prussia Town Center. Walk out the back door, you're on the Chester Valley Trail, you can ride your bike to the town center. And then this idea of creating a lot of additional green. I think we're proposing to increase the green area by around 2.5 acres, which is unheard of, really, in this sea of asphalt that we have in all of our office parks everywhere.
I do like how it is taking a old use and readapting, and I think there's environmental savings there.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the idea that it's this is an isolated amendment, I guess, right? To our
It
code.
really
I mean,
is.
it's really only for this property, because I looked through our zoning map and I couldn't find really another building.
Mr. Holt, I do this for a living, and I've known this building since we built it in the 80s, and there really isn't. I will tell you, because I've talked to Aaron and Bill about this. I did look hard at a property right behind the 7-Eleven in Paoli. It's an empty office building, vintage, like early 80s. It's literally right behind the 7-Eleven. It fronts on 252. It's empty. It's 2 stories with a partial basement. And like that is probably a candidate because it's a small building. I did a sketch. I think I only was able to get 20 some odd units. It's a heavy lift. I think if you added one more floor to it, you can get it up to maybe like 37 or 38 units. But it's little buildings like that. If you drive down through Paoli, east of 252, you can probably see a couple buildings. The building that Wisfis is in, at the train station, it's called Dalesford Plaza. It's got a peaked roof. It's on the south side of 30, across from the train station. It's drastically underparked for an office building. I believe Wisfis will be leaving that building soon. Like some little buildings along 30 could be potential candidates, but on a large scale, nothing really, in my opinion, doing this for 40 years, nothing else on Devon Park Drive works. The closest would have been the West Valley Business Center, which I used to own, which is right down the street. It's a series of small little L-shaped buildings, But we condoed that. We owned it as a rental community for a long time, and we found demand from our tenants who wanted to own their own little office building in Tredyffrin. So every one of those office buildings is owned by somebody else. So the idea of reversing that is almost impossible, I think.
So beyond the interesting fact that he told me I might be moving out of my own building because I'm in that WSFS building.
I'm
and I
sorry
don't
to
think
tell
some
you
of
that,
the,
but yeah.
That's fascinating. Can't wait to tell the employees that tomorrow. No, I already knew that. My concern is the number of units.
I'm sorry?
My concern is the number of units.
Yeah.
160 and the impact to the township school district. I just, where did that number come from? Can that come down? And talk to me about how you got to 160.
So it was really easy, Mr. Holt. It was having an architect look at each floor plan of the building, creating an entry and a hallway if it was necessary, because a lot of those buildings have their own entrances to the outside, and looking to, listen, the reality of providing affordable housing or workforce housing is the units just have to get smaller. This is just a reality. Every time the unit is bigger, it's going to end up requiring more rent. So we took the square footage of each building. We had an architect lay out how the buildings would break up into individual apartments, and with the mindset of them being efficient. And we came up with the 162 units. And again, from my perspective, I know it sounds like a lot, but it's so underserved. This will not put a dent in the demand for this type of housing. And I don't know any other options in your community that really drastically make sense to convert. I think if you haven't seen it already, you're going to see an application from what I still call the Woods. It's now called Devon Yards. That whole western side of those relatively unattractive single-story 1970s office buildings, they're 80% empty. Eventually, you will have somebody standing here probably coming in not to convert them, but to demolish them and build, something of a larger scale, whether it's for sale or whether it's for rent. So if I were here standing telling you I'm building $3,000 a month one-bedroom apartments, which any new project, any new multifamily project that gets in front of this township that's a ground-up project, that's what it'll be. It'll be the top end of the marketplace. Those are just people who have the means to pick out, whatever they want. No one can provide this. So I'd say to you, this isn't going to proliferate. The idea of this proliferating is very, very difficult to other properties in the township. If you drive up, I know every property in the industrial district on Devon Park Drive. None of them make sense for this type of use, including my building next door, which is a 130,000 square foot, single-story office building. I wouldn't even dream of doing it. And if I thought there was a better value of knocking both of these properties down, I would have considered it, but I didn't. Because again, I don't want to compete with everybody else building for the wealthiest. There's enough people out there trying to do that, and no one's really trying to accommodate the average person.
Well, I really appreciate the conversation, the back and forth, and I've answered all my, sorry, Carlotta, it's your turn now, but I appreciate the time.
That's fine. Hi, how are you?
How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing okay. Listen, a couple of things I just need to ask. In the apartment building that you are proposing, how are you going to look at it for people who are ADA? How many apartments would you be putting for someone who is ADA challenged?
That's a great question. There is a certain number per code that will be ADA. We have a lot of ground floor apartments on the first level. So I don't know the number, but there will be substantial ADA apartments.
Okay. Now, also within the apartments, I know just being a woman and having a tendency not to want to have to go down to a basement or someplace to do laundry. will these apartments have, say, a apartment-sized washer and dryer in them so that you won't have to go out of your, your apartment and go and,
Every apartment will have its own washer and dryer.
okay. All right, those are the two things I wanted to ask.
Thank you.
Chairman Miller, I just want to point out one thing. This is a conditional use process, too.
Yes,
which
sir.
I'm pointing it out to everyone here. So, and we have the regular conditional use conditions under our ordinances, and we have special conditions set out here, and in certain instances, we would be able to impose certain conditions that might,
That's correct.
the board may believe would make the project better for our residents. I just wanted to point that out in case anyone hadn't seen it. I thought it was important.
Great
It was important to me. You have a couple of bites at the apple here. I mean, we do. So.
Yes, sir.
And that doesn't mean to pick and choose or whatever, but just to try to work to make things better for our residents and for the township, so.
It's a great point. All I've done is applied for a very simple zoning ordinance modification. And as I expressed to the development committee, this idea of conversions has been around for 100 years in almost every municipality everywhere. You can go into Westchester, you can go into Malvern, you can go into Villanova, and you can see the big mansions of the early 20s, 30s, 40s. And in the late 40s, 50s, they became empty because nobody wanted these big houses. And what happened to them? They got converted from these big, grand mansions that captains of industries or doctors lived in, and they got converted to apartments. So what I'm proposing isn't really new. I mean, almost going to your point, Mr. Holt, has this been done before? It has. It hasn't been done in like 50, 60 years. But, the idea that there's a property that no longer is a viable a use, which, let's be honest, there's 20
What's that
to
factory
30.
one in Westchester that was built in the 80s, 90s? Was it the chocolate factory or the?
The Sharpless.
Sharpless.
Yeah. And there's a perfect example. Now, that was a factory. But if you go to the north side of town where some of the grandest houses were, a lot of those houses got converted to 3, 4, 5, 6 units during a period of time when nobody wanted them. And that's exactly where we are with office. There's 20 to 30% too much office space on the planet. And it's going to drive down real estate values, tax values, and every community has to really look at their inventory of office space. And Tredyffrin had a forum last October, a year ago in 2023, to talk to the development community and the real estate, the office building ownership community. And I've spoken about it in East Whiteland, I've spoken about it in Euclid, I've spoken about it in Westchester. This is really going to the point of the EIT. These values, which have been a staple in most communities, are going away. The values of these buildings are plummeting, and it's going to have a really drastic effect. So this is one little piece that I think addresses, it's a great tax story, and it's a great adaptive reuse story. And it's the best recycling story you could there's nothing greener than adaptively reusing a building for something else as opposed to tearing it down and building something new.
Other comments, questions?
You hit on something. How are you going to, is it possible you can use solar on these buildings
There's a lot of trees, a lot of big trees on the property. There's not a lot of big roofs on the property. Most of the roofs, I would say, we would certainly look at it, but it's just, without doing a lot of clear cutting and cutting some of the larger trees down, I would say solar would be a bad option, although there might be other options by the time we're ready to go.
How many school children do you anticipate?
We haven't done that study yet, Mr. Miller, but we will do that study by the time we come in formally. again, we're really looking at small one-bedroom units. I mean, the size of the units that we're talking about, there are not a lot of them in Tredyffrin Township. So, I mean, could there be 20, 15, 20? Again, it's not heavily amenitized like the Ember or the newer apartment buildings you're seeing. There's no swimming pool. You know, yes, will there be a tot lot? Yes, will there be an area out front you can kick a soccer ball, et cetera? But we're not gearing this towards families at all.
Yeah, I think to some of the points that other supervisors have made, one of the concerns becomes obviously that the tax revenue is great, but the expense that comes with the school children going
Right.
to the school district
I
could
understand that.
offset that pretty quickly, and it
Yes,
has
sir.
in other developments. So there's going to be a lot of concern on how much it's going to cost us,
I understand that.
the other taxpayers. Yeah, so that's an issue.
And we'll be prepared to address that with a
Yeah,
formal
please
study.
be ready to really address
Yes, sir.
how we limit the school children in the community. I love kids, by the way, but this is also from a revenue perspective that
Yes.
becomes an issue. And then talk to me about tearing up the parking lot to create a park. Is it? You mentioned that Pico actually owns the parking lot, or you lease it?
Yeah, so Pico, again, all of the parking that you see on the north side of Devon Park, under the Pico power lines, all of that land is owned by Pico and leased to each one of those property owners, generally under long-term leases that get extended and extended. I think you saw an application from Devon Mercedes a few years ago to take one of the few remaining undeveloped pieces and create a parking lot. So we pay Pico, I think we pay them an annual, I think it just went up to like $40,000 a year. So we don't need that parking to accommodate, parking is needed for office uses. Next door, I need that parking at 455 Devon Park Drive. Here, I don't need it. So the thought is, what could we do with that? I don't want to rent it out to a car dealership to put cars there. I'm trying to make this a community of people who want to live there, and it looks good and feels good. So I thought, what a great idea to just demo most of the parking and create green, whether it's just an open green area, benches, a place to kick a soccer ball. And again, the idea was, Devon Park Drive, I don't even know where that came from. There's no parks on Devon Park Drive. It's really a sea of asphalt, really, from kind of end to end. What a great chance to maybe do something that could accommodate. I mean, I have a fondness for the Crocodile Cafe because they were my tenants for many years. But, what a great place to maybe provide something where again, it could be a multi-use type of area where you could have open green area, benches, maybe a little playground or something, and also maybe provide an area for food trucks to come on, Fridays or Saturdays or Sundays. Maybe it morphs into business people in the community come. People come off the trail.
My question was really more on, does Pico have any issue with you tearing it out?
No, it's really, when you sign these leases with Pico, they have to agree to what you're using it for. No one has used it for anything other than parking. You really can't build anything there. You really can't construct. I mean, they're very strict about that, but.
So you don't see any issue with Pico?
None at all.
Okay,
No,
that was really my question,
no,
was that
no.
not more than?
I'd candidly, I know this is being taped, I'd candidly go to Pico to try to get the rent reduced a little bit because I wouldn't be using it for parking. But I just think not only is it, my primary focus is for the residents who live there. Instead of pulling in under a sea of asphalt, you pull into this really cool 2 entrances, go to this park. And I can just see people hanging out there, and I brought it up to the development committee. Maybe there's a way to make it somewhat public so other people could use it. I don't know. But I know for the residents of this community, it'd be great to have a big patch of green right
When you
there.
say amenities, do you anticipate a gym on the property?
I could see a little gym. Yeah, I could see a gym.
I'm just curious. You don't have to go on about it. I was just wondering. What
Yeah,
you think.
again, most of these places, again, these are small units, so you want to encourage people to go somewhere. Everyone has a computer, so the idea of having you go to a hotel now and there's a room with like 4 computers in it. Nobody uses you can do everything from your phone. But a little fitness center, golf simulators are popular, movie theater, those kind of things that you see in frankly, in really nice hotels are possible. But I have a limited area to do it in, so we would want to make it really, really spectacular.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other board comment or questions? Public comment or questions? Yeah, sure.
Thank you, folks.
This is really helpful. Thanks, appreciate
Appreciate
the
it.
comment.
Thank you. Look forward to working
Thanks
with
for
you.
asking.
Good evening. It may surprise you a little bit. Usually when I stand here, I'm arguing with you against developers, but I think Mr. Khan has a very interesting idea. Converting an existing building to apartments is much better than cutting down acres of trees to build high-density housing. That's a very powerful plus, I think, in his favor. It's really a super idea. I lived in a converted building in Philadelphia. It was a 3-story Edwardian townhouse. We moved because parking became impossible. If we had a parking space, I'd probably be arguing with the Philadelphia City Council now instead of Tredyffrin Board of Supervisors. But anyway, this project offers a very special and very, very important opportunity, and that opportunity is stormwater management. I'm sure that many of you, I know that Mr. Clark and Mr. Burgo and perhaps Ms. McPherson have heard people say that why can't we get existing stormwater management systems upgraded to meet current standards? And the reply is, and it's true, there is nothing in the township ordinances that permits that. Well, here's an opportunity. Mr. Khan, I'm sure, would like to have public support for his project. It sounds like a very interesting project. It sounds like a project that people will be able to afford to move into. I think overall the idea sounds really pretty interesting, and it has some very good points for it. I personally don't care if it has a gym or not. I probably wouldn't ever use it, but the other aspects sound interesting. Mr. Khan has agreed by offering an amendment to the zoning, Chapter 208 of the zoning code, to provide a minimum of 10% reduction in impervious coverage. That's a good step forward. I would recommend, I would suggest, and I would really hope that you would consider this idea. In the proposed amendment, whatever it is, well, you know what it is, Section 3B states a residential conversion shall cause a decrease in impervious coverage on a lot by at least 10%. My proposal is that that sentence be extended by saying, and I've already written it for you, so you don't have to do any work. You just have to type it. Along with stormwater management improvements that will bring existing stormwater systems up to code. I think that's very, very important. And as I will repeat on purpose, I know many of you have heard residents say, why can't we make property owners bring their systems up to current standards? And again, I'll repeat on purpose, there's nothing in the code that requires it. Now you have an opportunity. I'm very willing to cooperate, to compromise and cooperate with Mr. Khan in helping see a project go forward that will not cause problem with our existing open space, that will not cause us to lose trees, that will not cause us to lose a lot of other wonderful things we have in the township, like increased building and high-density housing in other areas of the township. it would be very simple to add that statement, bring existing stormwater management systems up to code, to the amendment. Mr. Khan would probably very much enjoy having the additional community support that would do. And it would be a very good point for the township. And you have just approved a situation where a resident wants to build a garage on the edge of a floodplain. One of the points that you did not that was not mentioned, I was going to say something, but I just didn't. I probably should have. Was that what is his garage going to do to people around him, because he is not going to do additional stormwater management on the edge of a floodplain. Even if those people aren't in our township, we owe it as good neighbors to be kind and considerate of other people. Now, this is a very, very good idea to add to the amendment. The Planning Commission will be talking about it. Supervisor Wysocki, who is a liaison with to that committee, that commission, is an excellent arguer. I know, because I've had the pleasure of discussing things in public with him before, and it's always a lot of fun, very interesting, and he always makes very good responses. He's a good person to discuss things with. I think Mr. Wysocki can be extremely persuasive in moving the Planning Commission to adding this idea to the amendment. And I would like you to remember that Mr. Wysocki just said that under certain circumstances, you have leeway, you can impose conditional use. And borrowing from Mr. Wysocki again, remember he makes excellent points, and this is one of them, to make things better for our own residents. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Wysocki. Please, I urge you, with every effort of my energy and my super willingness to cooperate and support this kind of a project, that you add this statement to bring the current stormwater management up to code, be included in the amendment, so that any time, even if it's a rare occurrence, as Mr. Khan suggests, anytime someone proposes to upgrade a building from empty office to occupied, tax-paying apartment buildings, this will be part of the requirement. Thank you very much. I look forward to the commission meeting and hearing it proposed as part of the new amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Coonan.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark?
I think Mr. Coonan has a really good point, and that if you're able to do something with your language as you forward this to the Planning Commission, to ask them to consider some language in an amended ordinance that upgrades the stormwater management, I think that would be very helpful, very powerful. So I would encourage you to do that. This seems like a really great project. I mean, you just go and look at those buildings and you can see that they are residential buildings, just almost there already. I'm sorry that Mr. Van Mol left, because I've heard Representative Schusterman talk a lot about the need for housing like this sort of not super high-end stuff that would attract people who want to work in the township to actually live in the township. And so I think that this is a really great idea. We've seen some adaptive reuse for the school district and also for other schools, I think, who are converting office buildings. So there is some of that stuff going on. And I don't think that we should be too worried about increased number of children in the school district, because otherwise, if this kind of thing does not happen, the school district is going to lose most of the taxes that were going from the 400 grand a year to the 90 grand a year, absent any conversion like this. So any children that do move into one-bedroom apartments with whomever, they're going to be more than funded by the taxes that will keep coming from the building. So anyway, thanks. And going back to Mr. Coonin's point, the more that you can encourage us to take advantage of this stormwater management opportunity, the better. It wasn't long ago that the fire department was rescuing people just down the street from this. So thanks.
Yeah, I'm quite aware of the problems of the water from that area. And there's a good suggestion. I mean, obviously, process-wise, it goes to planning, and there'll be, as Supervisor Wysocki pointed out, there'll be several bites at the apple as we kind of go down the road here. But those are good suggestions. Any other public comments? Any other board comments or questions?
Just briefly, I started this evening probably a no on this, but because of the conversation that we've had today, very open, very direct, and very much appreciated conversation from the developer. At this early stage, as Supervisor Wysocki said, I kind of see it as a preponderance of the evidence set stage right now, and I think Mr. Khan has met his burden, and we take it over to Planning Commission, and what I hope will be a very thorough review and analysis of the plan, hopefully reduced unit numbers, and I look forward to reviewing the analysis on the impact on township services and schools. So, thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye. No, it's not a roll call vote. No, it's just all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve agreement with Express Bill Pay for online payments. Mr. Duraco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I probably won't be as long as that last one, but this is
I think that was a worthy conversation, though.
This is an agreement that we're hoping to have approved by the board tonight, which will allow us to implement online payments for sewer and other things associated with the move to our new general ledger software earlier this year. Worked with the solicitor's office on trying to get the best agreement for the township, and that's what we're presenting tonight.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
For a second? Any board comments or questions?
I think this is a long time coming.
Absolutely.
And many people will be very, very glad to have online payment ability. So I'm for it.
Any other board comments or questions? Public comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we move on to board new matters. I have a new matter. I'd like to call Jean to come before the board. So I don't know if you know this. Jean, we heard a rumor this was your last meeting. Yes. Who approved that? I didn't hear any motion to let you go. I don't think that's allowed.
I've attended every meeting since December of '96, except for one. So it's going to be a hard habit to break. I'll be one of these people.
Well, we want to thank you for all of your service. It's 28 years. It's been fabulous, flawless, and really a valuable service to the community. And it's hard to believe you're not going to be doing this anymore, but thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you to supervisors and admin.
Seriously, thank you. Really, someone said earlier, our boards are all run by volunteers. I mean, he's a volunteer. It's really extraordinary, and hopefully the public appreciates the fact that because of him, we're broadcasting. You guys can look at this during the day and don't have to come to the meeting. So anyway, thank you, Gene. Any other board new matters? Public new matters? Our next meeting is January 6th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.